So going forward, Ted, can we see, let me ask you, you are in New York, you're boots on the ground, you live in New York City. Is there, anything's possible, but is it possible that we will see a Mayor Mamdani? Well, is that a thing that could happen?
It's very possible. At this point, look, despite everything that I said and the machinations of the DNC,
forget everything he said.
Well, we're trying to handicap all the possibilities, Scott, right? As always. I think if I had to put money on it, I'd say he's going to be the mayor of New York City. He wouldn't be the oldest, by the way. Back in the 1880s, there was a 30-year-old guy that Tammany Hall decided to, basically kneecap. He lasted 2 years. But basically, I think he'll be the mayor. I think what we're seeing is a dramatic political realignment where the old ways of like liberal Democrat versus conservative Republican, I don't think that's a thing much anymore, either in New York or in this country. I think what we're looking at now is populism versus establishmentarianism. There's more in common between the populist left and the populist right, and more in common between the establishment left and establishment right. The populists are more local focused. Let's help our own first before we think about outsiders. The establishment people are thinking about, we want the money to keep flowing to us, and we want to, focus on internationalism and wars overseas and so on. And this is a big, most New Yorkers who voted for Mamdani, they didn't vote for Mamdani. They voted against the DNC. They voted against the Democratic establishment. They voted against high rents. They voted against high prices. They voted against being ignored. They voted to make the establishment scared and angry. If the vote had not had people on it, if the vote was like in the Stanford prison experiment, if you could push a button in the voting booth that sent an electrical shock through the asses of the rich and powerful, that's what that vote was. That's what people wanted to do.
Okay, and before we wrap things up here, what's the mood of the city this morning? Is it, obviously you can't speak because you haven't been to all 5 boroughs and all that. But,
no.
But what's your sense? Like I said, you walk the streets, you go get a bagel, you go get a nosh, you go get a bagel with a schmear. You're a New Yorker, and
I think it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
There's a lot of young. Before I should say about the demographics of the vote that really are important. So 25%, which is huge, of these voters for Mamdani never voted in an election before.
Oh, wow. That's huge. Huge.
Scott, check this out. This broke my brain. So the first half of those 25% are under 30. Like, all right. Guess how old? The other half is over age 55, have never voted before. The very old and the very young voted for Mamdani.
How do you never vote?
I have been saying for years that there are tons of people on the left and on the right, to the right of the Republican Party and to the left of the Democratic Party, that just the reason that we have such a low voter turnout in the United States, it's from these people who don't identify with either party. They would vote if they liked what they saw or they felt there was an opportunity to send a message, and they did vote yesterday. But I'm sorry, I lost track of what was your question?
Well, I was actually going to piggyback on what you just said. I'm hearing more and more lefties, righties, friends of mine, over and over. Ted, I know you're hearing the same damn thing. God, I wish we had a third or fourth option.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And I come back and say, well, you do.
You do.
If you'd stop voting people in who are, have their own vested interests and make it very difficult, but we have libertarian candidates. We have Green Party candidates.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously in New York, you have Social Democratic Party candidates. So, from what we're saying here, this becomes a toss-up. Obviously a lot of moving pieces this morning.
And the mood is a toss-up too, right? To your point. So the mood is split. Like, people, there's some big smiles on people's faces this morning, and at the same time, there's some worried looks. There's a big Jewish vote in this city. 20% of New York's Jewish vote went to Mamdani, but that means 80% did not.
Yeah.
A lot of them voted for Lander, who cross endorsed Mamdani, but a lot of them didn't. And they're nervous. They're like, wait, this guy's born in Uganda. He's Muslim. He said when he was asked, will you go during the mayoral debate, will you go to Israel? He said, no, I'm focusing on New York. That makes some New York Jewish people nervous. I think they don't have anything to be scared of, but I can tell them that. But who's going to listen?
Yeah.
If you're scared, you're scared. It's not like, I don't think Mamdani's even like a religious dude. I think he's just culturally grew up that way. His ethnicity is Indian. He's actually, I really recognize a lot in his story. He went, like me, to Columbia University, now a non-accredited educational institution. He was a scholarship kid, like I was. He studied hard in school and got into a really great elite public high school called Bronx Science, which is a top STEM high school in the United States, public school. His mother is obviously she's an accomplished film director, but she's not Spielberg. She's not rich. His net worth is $200,000. He has a little bit of land on the lake, on the side of on the banks of Lake Victoria, in Uganda. So that's esoteric enough.
Hold on to that.
That's very strange.
That can only go up.
As they say, as Ugandan real estate goes, so goes Ugandan
Congo.
real estate. Yes, indeed. I don't know. Maybe it could be great. I don't know. I've never been.
It sounds like it might be pretty. So
yeah, it might be.
Going for now, the DNC, and by extension, the Clintons and that crew.
I'm glad you brought this up.
It's going to be interesting to see where they stand on this election, what they plan to do. They've got to be shitting their pants this morning, Ted. They've got to be going, if those numbers are accurate, and I have no reason to doubt your numbers, 25% new voters, half of those were under 30, half of those were above 55. That sends a shot. Those are the people who didn't vote for Biden in 2024.
That's right.
Or Kamala, sorry, whatever, whoever
Same
the fuck it was. Yeah, really, tomato. That, to my mind, if I was a Democrat and I was a Democrat, an active Democrat, I'd look at those numbers and go, holy fuck. They are looking for something. Now, there's an opportunity, I think, for the Democratic Party to retool itself. You can be a social Democrat and still be for commerce, for bringing jobs, for jobs. You can be a social Democrat and be for safe streets. You can be a social Democrat and not be a total toady for the teachers union and actually want good public schools. I'd like to see the party retool itself in that way. That would make it much more saleable. You and I both know we're not talking about smart/savvy people. You're going to see the moneyed interests try to fuck over that 25%, disenfranchise them again, and make them shut up, go away. That was their whole. Was the campaign.
That's what they do all the time.
That was the slogan in 24, Ted, for Kamala was, hey, moderate white people, fuck you, shut up and vote for us.
That's right.
Not a winning slogan.
Clearly not. and so the thing is, that's the question, right? I totally agree, Scott. What you're saying is spot on. So now again, the Democratic Party is faced with a choice. The DNC, the party bosses, what are we going to do? Are we going to do nothing, which would be the smart move, and just allow the party to go in the direction it's going to go? Let the party pick winners, and those are going to be the people who have the best shot at beating the Republicans. Or are we going to put our fat, gross, greasy thumbs on the scale again, the way we always do, like we did against Bernie and so on, and against John Edwards and against Howard Dean and against Jesse Jackson and on and on and on. And I think, they're going to have to decide, or, do we want to coalesce behind some corporatist and, like you said, Scott, push them, shove them down the throats of voters who do not want them, and make them not want to vote Democratic or just vote at all, and so that we can maintain ideological control. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the ad always says past performance is no guarantee of future returns. But I used to work on Wall Street, and we used to make fun of that saying. We say, yeah, but usually it is. And so, usually it is. They've always done the same thing. So it stands to reason they'll probably keep doing the same thing that they always do. But they do have an opportunity every time they face this decision to change their consistently losing course of action. Unless they'd rather just lose to the Republicans, but keep control of the party and just keep collecting the money and keep the grift going. And they don't give a shit about them, the people or the country or the city or whatever. I think you and I both know the answer to that.
Yeah, we do. And so do our listeners. If you've been paying attention at all. All righty. Well, we said this would be a short one. I told my wife we'd be 15 minutes. She said you'll be 40, and she's right.
Never argue with her. Never. I wouldn't.
I have to have my grandson on here because now he has gotten to the point where they ask, what is Poppy? They call me Poppy. What does Poppy do for a living? Whenever I go to, he goes, blah, 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 blah. And he's not wrong.
True. So true. So true. All right, Scott, it's singing time, and I'll let you.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do.
I know what you're going to do. All right, 3, 2, 1, boom.
Arise, ye children of starvation. Arise, ye wretched of the earth. For the International shall free the human race. Bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum 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 bum. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting real enthusiastic about that. Wow.